This video is for lesson 7.1, the distributive property. This is part 1 of 2 videos for this lesson. Okay, before we get into what the distributive property is, I would like for you to simplify this expression. There are 2 ways you can actually simplify this expression. The one most of you probably did was use the order of operations. 3 plus 7 is 10. 2 times 10 is 20. But there's actually another way that you can simplify this expression, and that is using what is called the distributive property. Since the number 2 is being multiplied by both the 3 and the 7, it's the quantity of 3 plus 7, you can actually multiply 2 times each of the numbers individually and then add them, versus adding and then multiplying. So 2 times 3 plus 2 times 7, you get 6 plus 14, which is still 20. So this second method is using what we call the distributive property. So let's take a closer look at that right now. The distributive property tells us that I can take a number or a letter A and multiply it by the quantity B plus C, and I get A times B plus A times C. The same goes for if the quantity in parentheses is B minus C. So A times the quantity B minus C is equal to A times B minus A times C. Let's take a look at the first example. This is on your note packet, so if you could take that out and write this down. 4 times the quantity of x plus 7. This is an example of where we would have to use the distributive property versus order of operations, because if you use the order of operations, parentheses would need to be done first, and in this case we can't do x plus 7 because we don't know what x is. So what we would do to simplify this is to do the distributive property. So that means 4 times x plus 4 times 7. So we're going to write that down, 4 times x plus 4 times 7. And then we're going to simplify each of those. 4 times x, we don't know x, so we're just going to leave it as 4 times x plus 4 times 7, which is 28. Now this is actually as far as we can go with this problem. We cannot simplify this anymore. Let's talk about why. So the question is, why is 4x plus 28 not equal to 32x? So in other words, why can't I add the 4 plus the 28 to get 32? And the reason is because if we don't know the value of x, if I were going to simplify this farther, I would actually have to multiply first using order of operations before I would add, and I don't know the value of x, so I can't multiply, which means then I can't add either. So we don't want to add before we multiply because that doesn't follow the order of operations. So you want to leave your answer as 4x plus 28, and that's it. Let's take a look at the second example. 2 times the quantity negative 5x minus 7. So first you're going to multiply 2 times negative 5x and 2 times 7, making sure that when you do this, you bring down the subtraction sign that's in between the two terms inside of the parentheses. So be careful, make sure you put a minus sign when there's a minus sign, and for the first example it was an addition sign, so make sure you pay attention to what sign goes there. Okay, and then we're going to multiply 2 times negative 5 and 2 times 7. 2 times negative 5x would be negative 10x, and 2 times 7 would be 14, and again we bring that subtraction sign down. So our final answer is negative 10x minus 14. All right, if you take a look at example number 3, this will be our last example for this first video. The original problem says the quantity of 3 minus 8a times 2. So notice the 2, the number that's outside of the parentheses, is in the back at the end of this problem. What we're going to do is we're just going to cross it out and rewrite the problem with the 2 at the beginning so it looks the same as the ones that we've done before. And then once you do that, you would just proceed the same as the last 2 examples. So 2 times 3 minus 2 times 8a. And then again, simplify 2 times 3 as 6. And 2 times 8a is 16a, and that is your final answer. Again, remember, we can't do anything. We can't actually subtract 6 minus 16 because 16 is multiplied by a letter a, which we don't know the value of. And multiplication is supposed to come before subtraction. So we can't do the multiplication, so therefore we can't just skip it and move on to subtraction. So that is our answer. All right, let's try some of these for some practice. For the first example, you should have 3 times 7 minus 3 times 2x, which gives you 21 minus 6x. For the second example, you would multiply 2 times x plus 2 times 3, which gives you 2x plus 6. For the third example, move the 5 to the front like we just did, and then go ahead and multiply 5 times negative 11 plus 5 times x, which gives you negative 55 plus 5x. And then for the last example, we actually have 3 terms inside of the parentheses. A little bit different, but you're going to go ahead and just multiply the 7 times all 3 of them. So same strategy, just one extra step here. So 7 times x minus, bring over the subtraction, 7 times 4 plus 7 times 2y. So you get 7x minus 28 plus 14y. Now this one has 2 different letters, and we've been saying for the previous answers you don't want to add or subtract because one, we don't know the value of x. And the same thing goes here. X and y would represent 2 different numbers, and I don't know either of them, so therefore that's as far as I can go. That's my answer for the last one, 7x minus 28 plus 14y. And that is the end of part 1 of the video. Feel free to rewatch it if you feel you need the extra practice.